Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello and welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. I'm your host, Mike Merrill, and today we are joined again by Anne Pfleger. She is back by popular demand. We had a great discussion with Anne about her role as National President of NAWIC. That's the National Association for Women in Construction. And we felt like it was fitting to have Anne back to talk about her specific role in construction. So Anne wears many hats in her day-to-day job. She's also not only the president of NAWIC, but she has a job in construction. So she works with estimating, safety, and an HR administrator for Charles Construction Services Company. She's also the PreQualification and estimating administrator at Hancock Structural Steel. So Anne, pleasure to have you back. We're really excited to talk about some of your role in construction specifically today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here again.
So Anne, can you tell the listeners how COVID has changed processes for estimators and project coordinators?
Construction remained essential during COVID. So we were able to still be on the job sites building projects, but there was a lot of things that did need to be changed and we needed to adapt very quickly. We had to have a lot stricter social distancing on the job sites between workers. Sanitation was a huge thing. And anybody that was not crucially needed on a project, they would work remotely. So technology had a huge part in that. By being able to stay connected to the job site with virtual platforms such as Zoom and other like Teams, Microsoft Teams to meet, those project managers and those positions that would normally be on the job site were still able to feel connected. Also, in the state of Ohio, and I'm sure that this was done in other states as well, we also have to have inspections of our jobs, and that needed to be done in order to continue moving along with the project. So the county and the state set up ways for the superintendent on the job to virtually go through and have them do the job inspection. And that was actually very challenging for some of our more seasoned field superintendents. A lot of them have been very, don't want to change. Some of them even hate having their smartphones. They want to go back to the flip phone. So for my role in HR and safety and IT, there was a lot of training that I did throughout the pandemic to bring them up to speed and try and instruct them. And that's very challenging when you're virtual trying to train somebody virtually how to do something because you're not right next to them. So that was very interesting. But I think what it did was it just kind of pushed forward the things that we need to be doing, using technology more. When we're traveling to job sites for a meeting or when the inspectors are traveling to job sites, that travel time takes up a lot of the day. And I think with the way that we're using technology now more, we're going to be able to get more done because they're not having that travel time. If they can just hop onto a meeting virtually and inspect an area on the job in order for them to approve the inspection, or if they need to re-inspect something really quick because they fixed it, I think that that's going to help move our projects forward quicker and be able to get them done, maybe even ahead of schedule, depending on, can't control weather yet with technology, but we do have that option.
Yeah, that's great. I know, kind of like you stated, you became a glorified technical support agent for your field employees. Is that right?
Yes, that's definitely right. And when you're trying to explain to some of the older gentlemen, about using technology, I even had to explain one who's my age, and he's totally against. He doesn't even hardly use his tablet that we give him. But yeah, they were reluctant, but they knew it had to be done in order for them to keep moving, and they wanted to work. So kind of one of the things they had to do it.
Well, it sounds like you were able to work through that, and most of them are probably caught up to speed. Would you say now in 2021, is it easier to be a project manager or coordinator than it was in 2020 and prior?
I think you have more tools to make it, I won't want to even necessarily say easier, because you still have things that happen on job sites that you have to take care of. That will always be. But I think that the resources and tools you have will make those situations easier to take care of, and even progress the project along as well. So it will help definitely.
So have you got some new software tools now that you would feel are indispensable at this point that you really think you'll depend on moving forward?
I think really the use of the virtual platforms like Teams and Zoom, that will definitely be something that we'll always use because it's a great way to connect. It's a lot cleaner than just even doing FaceTime or something like that. And I know that they're all improving on what they have to offer. I know Zoom has added some things in Microsoft Teams as well, so they've been seeing what is being used in each one of their software, and they're improving on that. So I think that as we go along, it's gonna get even better.
Sure. Do you feel like these tools have helped get a better grasp on accuracy of data collection and the tools that they're using now?
Uh, yes, definitely. Something that Bluebeam is becoming more accessible and acceptable, I should say, now, with everybody using it to update the drawings real time instead of having to update them and then send the files and then having comments about. I mean, just that back and forth takes forever. So to be able to do that in real time really is helping, because it helps, especially with as-built, as you're progressing with the project. It keeps everybody up to speed on where you're at with it. And then at the end, it's much easier when you're putting all that stuff together because it's already been done throughout the whole project. I remember I was on the project side before I came to the estimating side, and I remember when you had to have 3 copies of as-built. You did not have a planned copier. So you were hand doing every single sheet. You were hand doing it. And now you can do it on your computer, and you can make notes. You can it's just amazing what we can do. And that's been progressing for a few years now. But I think now it's really being pushed forward even more because of the pandemic. Believe me, I would never have chosen this way to push technology forward, but it had to be done.
Yeah, that's a great point. It kind of became a defensive reaction that we all had to take, but ultimately it was for the greater good of advancement of processes for sure. So
Yeah.
So, are there any other big tech innovations that you're seeing coming down the pike? You mentioned Bluebeam. Is there anything else that you're excited about or that you think will be better now that we've gone through this transformation and adjustment?
I think drones are really moving forward quickly. Use on the project. I mean, you could use them for a multitude of different things. Just the progress of the job. It can be used for inspections of like you have to go into a building maybe that just had a fire and you got to do some work in there, or even for asbestos removal. You can take the drone in there to look for that. I mean, asbestos is horrible, and you have to have certain people certified to do that abatement. And to be able to send a drone in there to just find the areas where that needs to be removed is going to save a lot of not only time, but it's the health and well-being of the employees. So I think that drones are going to be more and more used. Again, they've kind of started being used in the last few years for all those types of things, but it's really being pushed again because it's safer. It's keeping you have your workers are separated. You can get real-time information. You can get progress reports that can be sent to the owners and other people on the teams. One thing that I really thought that was very interesting actually before COVID, that even the way that they have the software out there that will, if you put cameras at certain spots on the job site, you'll have video time lapse and that is really becoming better and better as things go. And again, I think that the pandemic kind of pushed that forward as well, so that people could really show not only what's going on with the project, but the end product. So if the company that built that building, whatever it was for, they could use it for marketing material because it's that good of quality of video. I mean, when everything first started, it's, kind of blurry, but yeah, the video even on that has really gotten tremendously better. It helps out with when you're doing punch lists on the job. You can actually have a team in the office and somebody flying the drone and go into something, if you're looking for a certain thing and the architect says it's not done, you can show them, yes, it's done right then and there, and they can check it off. So I do really see drones and other video type software is really becoming more and more useful for all types of projects.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I had a guest on the other day, and they mentioned how it's interesting that they could find an owner manual for their 1992 Honda Accord, but this multi-million-dollar building doesn't have one. There's no, but now we have the opportunity to have that type of documentation or manual, so to speak, of that building because we've got these tools.
And a lot of the manuals are searchable if they're electronic, which is another key thing. I actually literally been spending the last couple of weeks putting together a digital operations manual for a project that we're completing, and we had to bookmark everything and make it so that everything was very searchable and they could have it at their fingertips. They didn't have to flip through. And this book was almost 5,000 pages. Can you imagine if it was hard copy, trying to find one thing that you needed?
Glad you didn't need to do that in triplicate, right? By hand. So I love that you brought up the safety impact and HR impact that drones are helping improve for employees. Are there any other things related to safety and HR that you've seen have changed because of these reactions?
On the safety side, there are more technology for, like there are exoskeletons that they're building for people to be able to safely move things, pick things up. One thing that on the HR side is that this is a company that NAWIC has partnered up with recently. It's called People First, and it's a platform for employees to, if there's some sort of a HR situation, it could be harassment, it could be, whatever type of situation that's related to HR, that an employee can start the process of an incident right there in the app, and it makes it a little bit easier for those members or those employees that don't feel comfortable going and like talking to somebody about it because there's not that person-on-person conversation that you're having about the situation. Especially from a woman's side, we do tend to be a little bit more emotional, and to be able to, get something started, to have it looked into. And the way that this is set up with People First, and they're getting out to different types of industries. Actually, they reached out to NAWIC to get into the construction industry. But it makes the employees feel comfortable knowing that, since their company signed up for this, that there is going to be no retribution for whatever type of a incident that they bring up. Because that is one of the fears of women in the industry, especially tradeswomen, is that if they bring something up because, somebody is treating them differently or harassing or bullying them, they're going to have repercussions for bringing it up, or it's going to make it even worse because, she said something. So having this opportunity, and what's really neat about this software is that if somebody sees an incident and they're not part of the incident, they can report it. So again, it gives other people an opportunity to stand up and say something. And honestly, I think that's what we need to be doing more, is when you see something going on, stop it, intervene. Because once one person sees you intervening and making a difference, I truly believe that will make them want to do the same and stops other things from happening.
Yeah, that's a great point. We had Stuart Binstock, I don't know if you know Stuart, he's the president of CFMA, Construction Financial Management Association. And we had him talking about suicide prevention and also the impact of injuries on a company, even on their bottom line financially, and the true costs that impact a company because somebody was injured or heaven forbid, killed. And so that was a big thing he mentioned continuously was, just like at the airport, if you see something, say something. And so many of these things can be prevented. And I love that you tied that into even from an HR or bullying perspective, that we as an organization or as an industry need to raise the bar and really have more accountability to help make it a safe environment for anybody who wants to come participate. We need every hand we can get right now, and we're short staffed everywhere. So that can help our business by being more inclusive, like you've mentioned.
Definitely.
So, are there other? I know contract tracing contact tracing and other things related to COVID have been a big deal, and something that we've had to adjust and adapt to, accommodate and be accountable to. Are there any things along safety management like that have changed and that you think might continue forward even after the pandemic's gone?
I think we will see more regulations, safety regulations coming out about sanitation on the job site. This is one of the things, again, that women have been talking about for many, many years, just sanitation on the job site and proper fitting women's PPE. And NAWIC has had an alliance with OSHA for a while, and they've reached out to us wanting to have conversations about working on some regulations to get put in place, because the pandemic has showed them that, yeah, you guys have been talking about all along. We should have been doing all along. It might have helped to alleviate maybe some of the spread. When you're working on a construction job site, you are in there with each other. I mean, a lot of times you have to work very closely with one another.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, so tell me this. I know this wasn't really in our pre-dialogue, but I am very curious. You are a woman in construction. We've talked about NAWIC. Uh, when I read your resume, I about needed to, take a nap in between because there's so much that you're responsible for. So, how did you get in this role and position? I mean, when you were a little girl, did you aspire to be involved in a construction company, or tell us about that journey a little bit?
Yeah, no, actually, I was kind of a tomboy growing up, but I actually worked in the transportation industry, and that is a very heavy regulated industry, just like the construction industry. But how I got into construction is I was recently divorced and a single mom, and the trucking company I worked for was an hour away each way. So I was like 2 hours on the road. So I wanted to find something closer to home, so I applied for a receptionist position at a local general contractor, Charles Construction. And I met with it. It's a family-run business, husband and wife, and I interviewed with the wife and had a great conversation, and I thought it was going wonderfully. And towards the end of the conversation, she said, "Well, I'm not going to hire you for the receptionist position." And I was like, "What to say? What happened here?" Before I could, she said, "We haven't been looking or needing a project administrator, but we're going to make a position for you." So they hired me in as a project administrator. It actually ended up working out because the project administrator that was there gave her 2-week notice. So I was able to, I didn't get much training, but that's okay. I love to just dig in there and figure it out for myself anyways. But it was a really good transition for me, going from trucking to construction, because they're both very heavily regulated. And I've been with Charles since 2005. I started on the project side and have moved myself over to estimating, and then I also do the safety, HR, and IT. So that's how I got into construction.
I don't think it doesn't sound like you regret it.
No, no, I love it. I love working in the construction industry, and I love being a part of NAWIC and being here to be able to support other women in the industry.
That's fantastic. So, is there one thing or another that you really focused on or studied in order to further the career that you've built for yourself?
I've always been a numbers person, and I did. People say, "Well, why didn't you become an accountant?" And an accountant, they're like in a box. You can't really go outside the lines. You got to stay within the box. I'm definitely somebody that likes to stay outside the lines. So I actually ended up getting my degree in business management, which kind of encompassed everything. And I worked on the project side, but when I kind of got a feel for the estimating, I was like, okay, that's numbers. That's just, I love doing that. So I took some classes. Actually, when I was getting my degree, I ended up getting my degree 20 years after I started. That's another story. But I did take some blueprint reading classes while I was getting my degree because in construction I needed some extra credits, and I just loved it. So I let my boss know that I was interested in learning more about the estimating side, and my boss has always been so very supportive with whatever I wanted to do in my career in construction. So we started moving me over to the estimating side, and I still help out with all of the estimating that we do in our company, but I now estimate the pre-engineered metal buildings, which I just love. And this is another thing with technology, because the program that I use is actually on the web, and I can go in and put all the building specs in and run pricing. If I need to get it down to a certain price, I can play around with it right online, make whatever changes I need to get to the price that our customers expecting. So
Wow, and I love that you said you told your boss you were interested in getting into the estimating side of things. So you actually stepped up and were bold and shared what you were thinking. And I think that's a gap that a lot of people have. They assume that people are going to take notice, or they're going to somehow magically read your mind and know what it is you want. And you put yourself out there, and it sounds like it served you very well.
yeah, and that is important, but not all people can do that. And that's why I want to be here to be able to help those people that can't or don't know how to, maybe mentor them to have the voice, or be their voice.
Yeah, we had a recruiter on the podcast a while back that was talking about that same thing, about presenting themselves appropriately for the things that they wanted to aspire to, or that they want to advance to or graduate into. And I think, especially with this younger generation, it seems like they like to text a lot, and they're not quite as good at the in-person communication thing. I've noticed, at least with my own children. So I don't know if you've noticed the same thing or not.
Yeah, I do see the same thing. You just got to find out how they want to communicate and communicate to them that way. So I know that my boss, he would definitely be one of those people that if I would prefer texting, he would text me. I personally like to sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk, but you have to be adaptable to that. And I think that's what's important, within the companies that we have in construction, is that culture to be able to adapt and to change to your workforce, because that's the only way that we're going to entice the younger generation to come into the industry, is if we're communicating with them how they know how to communicate, whatever that is.
So we have to all make TikToks and Snapchats about about these things, and they'll pick it right up, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I haven't gotten into TikTok yet. I do Snapchat once in a while, but I don't have time to learn a lot of that kind of stuff. But
I know, me either. My wife Snapchats with her daughters all the time, and they have fun. And once in a while, I'll give a token little snap here and there just to show that I know something about it. But it's not second nature to me either. So tell me this: is there one challenge? I mean, you've been in these different roles. You've obviously advanced your career. You're in a higher position in your organization. Obviously, they heavily depend on you for a lot of different things. What's one business challenge that you encountered and that you overcame, and how did you work through that?
I personally, where I'm at in Charles, I don't have a challenge, because this has been such a great team to work with. Now, of course, throughout the years we've maybe had conflicts with personalities amongst employees, but really the company that I work for really cares about their employees, and wants to help out. I mean, I joke with my boss's wife. I'm the work wife and she's the home wife. So you get to know them, and I think that is also very important when you're working within a company. I've never worked for a large company, and I know that it would be very different for me to do that, to be a number than a person. So honestly, I don't have anything in the company that I am here now. Now, I can tell you, I did have a situation with a company that I worked for a short time, and was also run by a couple. And the husband had major anger issues, major. And this was the first time in my life where I ever quit a job that I did not have something lined up. But after I called my father one morning, because I would get into work early, like at 7:15, I was calling my father, bawling because of the owner, what he just did. My dad says to me, "You need to leave. Quit." I said, "Dad, I don't have another job. I don't care. We'll figure it out and we'll get out of there." So I know that those things are out there, and I think that that's why it helps me today to understand what some of the women on the job sites, or even in their work environment. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that there's any type of harassment going on. I mean, come on. We're here to do a job. We're trying to make a living for our family. There should be none of that other stuff going on, but it does happen. So I think that sometimes you need to go through those type of situations to be able to understand when other people are going through it and how to best lead them to get through it. So that's kind of that story.
Well, thank you for sharing some of those more personal stories and some of your history. I'm sure that there are listeners out there that will find that valuable and inspiring. And I hope that any of them that are going through those challenges are able to make that same decision and leave that environment that's toxic or unhealthy for them, and find a better place. There are a lot of great companies out there. We work with thousands of them all over the United States and Canada and even internationally. And I just take my hat off to so many of them that are quality organizations. They want to do a great job. They love their customers. They care about safety. I'm just so pleased to be involved in such a wonderful industry, and I love that you've shared so much of your personal history and growth in your organization, but also that you're extending that into your role in NAWIC and helping raise the tide for all the other ships in the harbor. So in closing, is there one takeaway that you would like to share with the listeners from your role and your position and your experience in your construction company today?
Well, I think in my construction career, it kind of goes in with my neighbor's role as well. And I think I mentioned this one last time we were talking, but it's still very important that you can be and do whatever you want to do. Don't let barriers stop you. There's a way to get around them. It may take time. Like I mentioned, it took me 20 years to finish my college degree, but I got it done. And that was something else that I wanted to, with my son, I wanted to show him that, even though I didn't get my college degree right out of high school, I still got it. And I think that that's important for people to understand that, do it on your timeline. If it takes you a little longer to get somewhere you need to go, that's fine. Just keep your eye at the end and you can do it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, life's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Definitely.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for joining us again today. We had another great conversation, and again, just enjoy getting to know you better personally and professionally, and look forward to opportunities to connect again down the road when we have the chance.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you. And thank you to the listeners for joining Anne and I today for this conversation. If you enjoyed the things that we talked about or learned something new and insightful, we invite you to please give our podcast a rating and a review, as well as share it with your friends and colleagues within your organization. Of course, we love it when you follow us on all the socials at WorkMax_ on Instagram or on our LinkedIn page at WorkMax. Again, we're grateful for your participation and listenership, and we hope not only that you're able to improve your business, but your life.